Hello, this is Games to Play Before You Die, our show where we talk about the best games, most important games, iconic games, video games that we think you should play before you die. I'm Jordan Miner, senior editor at Geek.com, joined by some colleagues from Mashable here.
I am Kellen Beck, entertainment reporter at Mashable.
Hi, I'm Bob Al-Greene. I'm an illustrator at Mashable.
Now, I think we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with this episode, because the whole premise of the show is we want to talk about all these different games you should play before you die.
Yeah.
But this is maybe the last one. Like, this is kind of starting it with a showstopper, I feel like.
This is like Super Smash Brothers for Nintendo 64 is like truly one of the best, not only like best fighting games of all time, but like best games of all time.
Yeah, it's almost like a work of games preservation.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff in there. So yeah, if you don't know Smash Brothers, it's a Nintendo fighting game with all these different Nintendo mascots: Mario, Pikachu, Link, Samus. They're all together. They're all beating each other up. And it's like one of their biggest like deals now. Like, people love these games. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate is coming out soon. The whole hook is it has just everything from every entry in the series. But for this one, we're looking at the very first one, Super Smash Brothers for Nintendo 64. Came out in 1999.
Great year.
Yeah. That makes me feel a lot older now.
Clinton was president.
Y2K on the horizon.
Oh, God. We were all so scared.
What a great scandal that
Computers.
was. Yeah. So yes, for Nintendo 64, which wasn't really doing so hot.
Yeah. It was kind of in the tail end.
Yeah. It was, PlayStation was kind of eating a lot of its lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like Ocarina of Time and Mario 64 were like important games, but they weren't doing enough to kind of just in the hardware side move the needle in their favor. But the thing that the N64 had over competitors was the focus on 4-player. It had 4 ports right in the console, stuff like Mario Kart, Mario Party. There was a lot of emphasis on 4-player, and Smash Brothers, very, very fun 4-player game.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, I thought we were only talking about the single-player campaign on this episode. That was my understanding. We're going to be talking about multiplayer?
Oh, we're going to be talking about multiplayer.
Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to sit this one out. Please go on.
So just some cool stuff about Smash Brothers. Created by Masahiro Sakurai, who created Kirby for Nintendo. I think there's a lot of, if you look at the way Smash Brothers plays, there's a lot of overlap between that and Kirby.
Oh, yeah.
Just like Kirby has the kind of similar emphasis on combat, I feel like. And just the kind of the way the jumps feel. I don't know. It reminds me of Kirby.
Yeah, and just like, I mean, the 2D, like Kirby's always been like a 2D side scroller, and that facet of it, and obviously Kirby as a playable character, just a knockout. Just a knockout character.
This is almost as good as Kirby's ever been in the
just
Smash
as
Brothers
a character,
franchise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But just the way that like kind of Kirby as like the Kirby games feel kind of applied to a fighting game. I feel like there's a lot. You can kind of just see that lineage, I feel like. It didn't even, another fact, it didn't even begin as a Nintendo thing. It began as a prototype called something in Japanese I can't pronounce, but translated to Dragon King the Fighting Game. Just to kind of show off, just to kind of prove, just like a proof of concept. Of
Right.
Does footage exist of that, or are there like sketches of what the characters would have been like?
It's just kind of a lot of like polygons, like in like there's the fighting polygon team in Smash Brothers.
Right. Yeah. I think there's definitely screenshots of that.
Yeah.
And it does just look like those, like when you do the 100-man brawl, and it's just kind of like these faceless like polygonal characters.
Right, well, just at the time, just polygonal characters in general.
Yeah.
Are like a novelty in a video game. It started as that. And yeah, there was a lot of kind of hesitance about whether or not it should be Nintendo characters, because they were like, we don't want, a lot of our brand and our image is that we're like family friendly, we're like the Disney of video games, we're family friendly. So like, do we really want the game where the point is that they're murdering each other? All these cartoons are trying to kill each other?
And like Nintendo's always been so careful about like their branding and just like how they want to present their characters, but also like violence. Like they're like, when Mortal Kombat came out, they
were total cops about it.
Yeah, they like had to change the blood so that it wasn't red, so that they would put it on their system. Like they've always been like pretty anti-violence. So like this was an interesting move, I feel like, for them.
Yeah, I wonder if just the whole hook of like you're knocking the character off the screen as opposed to like you're whittling down their health bar. I wonder if that made it more palatable to them or not.
Yeah.
Right. You just kind of disappear into a blink.
Yeah, or it's like a sumo wrestler kind of thing where it's all about ring outs.
Yeah.
But then there was that commercial. You see that commercial, right, where they're all in like the costumes. They're playing happy together or so happy together.
Yeah, they're like
wow.
dancing through like a field
Yes.
Yeah.
on a sunny day.
And then just Donkey Kong just starts beating up Mario, this ape.
Classic Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
A scourge on the city.
Yeah. But eventually they got over it. It came out, and then it was the start of a beautiful franchise of franchises.
Yeah. Like
Um,
truly one of the best like fighting game franchises of all time.
mhm.
Started right here in 1999.
It's kind of like an early connected universe to bring these characters all together, like a kind of presaging like the Marvel movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
The movies, yeah. And before, I guess Marvel vs. Capcom was out at that time.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
But not,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, definitely before the movies.
Mhm.
Before anyone really cared about that stuff. And before, like, like Link and Soul Calibur and other kind of
Right,
like
yeah,
fighting
that
games
was
have
in the
gotten more
2000s and-
crossover heavy since then.
Yeah, and now in Soul
Mhm.
Calibur you can just literally make anything you want,
Yeah.
which is fantastic.
Something about 64 specifically. Whenever new Smash Brothers games come out, people are wondering like, oh, what characters are going to be in, or which ones, like the conspiracy, like, oh, which ones were going to be in but then got cut, which they don't talk about till after the fact. But characters that were going to be in 64 that got cut were Bowser, Mewtwo, Marth,
Ooh.
and King Dedede, who all eventually got in,
Yeah.
but they were not in this first version.
Over a couple of games. DDD not until Brawl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that makes. I mean it's almost weird to like look at Super Smash Brothers for Nintendo 64 and realize there's no Bowser.
Yeah.
I feel like it seems like such a like clear cut character.
Yeah, we're doing this thing on Geek where we just do every single character, and
Yeah.
I did the one on Donkey Kong. And it's like, yeah, this is the closest thing the game has to a villain in this initial
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of more history, the business end of it. But what Smash Brothers, what makes it so beloved that it's just connected to a lot of people,
Yeah.
just on a personal, just childhood level. So if we wanted to maybe just talk about some of our own memories of Smash Brothers, playing it growing up.
Oh man.
In the 90s, the go-go 90s.
Those sweet 90s. I remember, so my friend had it. My friends, a couple of brothers, and I remember
Smash Brothers.
playing it. Yeah, so we became, me and my brother, and then him and his brother. Like we would all hang out together. We were the Smash Brothers, and just like playing for hours and hours and hours on end, and like us bringing our Nintendo 64 controllers over to their house, and then eventually we got the game. I think probably not too soon after it came out, but just like the amount of time spent playing that game, like 4-player multiplayer,
Yeah.
or like 2-player multiplayer, me and my brother just like hanging out in the basement. It was that's probably the game I played the most in my childhood.
Wow. See, I didn't play it. I played it almost not at all in my childhood, to be
Okay.
honest. Like it was one of those like sleepover games, like we talked about, like GoldenEye or stuff like that
Totally.
before.
Yeah.
Where if you get a group of people together, like that is something that you can, like play all night. But I didn't really come to it seriously until college, to be honest.
Okay.
Like that is when I started. It's, you get a group of people in a house. Someone says like, "Who has an N64?" And it's still, I mean, this isn't like childhood memories, but it is like bringing back childhood.
Childhood
And it
is
is.
childhood.
Yeah.
Childhood
It's all
continues through
extended
college.
adolescence. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all still children.
I am a
if you
child.
really think about it.
I
Yeah.
am a man child, yeah.
Yeah.
But man, it held up, and I think I probably like put in the hours in college to catch up with your like childhood playing.
Yeah.
Just from like sitting around the house and playing over and over and over again, and like trying to beat people that had really grown up with it and had their strategies, and like trying to learn this stuff after the fact. It was man, a lot of time that I should have been in classes spent playing this.
Whatever.
instead.
Now it's coming in handy in your professional life. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As you can see. Yeah.
Yeah. I only had an N64 growing up, so I was very starved for
Yeah,
video
me too.
games. So this was definitely one that got a lot of play. I'm trying to think, because I've always been into fighting games in general. I'm trying to remember if this was actually the one that did it or not. It might have been. Yeah, it might have been. Because it's just, fighting games to me are just such a cool, it's just such a pure distillation of just like expressing mechanics.
Yeah.
Like, it's about just you doing the moves you want to do and just trying to do them better than another person.
Right.
Like no one needs levels. You just need to be able to just do the moves you want to do. Mechanics. I really like exploring mechanics in games. And yeah, just Smash Bros. Mechanics as a fighting game are just so different and cool. So that was something. I was doing a lot of. You mentioned GoldenEye. Something. So besides just all the characters, also different items and stages, Pokemon. And do you know that the bombs and like the cloaking devices are supposed to be from GoldenEye?
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
What?
they
No.
they couldn't be like, oh, James Bond's a Nintendo character. But like GoldenEye is like an N64 classic, and they did want to kind of represent that here.
Yeah.
So like if you go, it says like
that's
top
interesting.
secret for like what the game's supposed to be.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So like the little mines you throw, the little gray mines.
That
Okay,
that
gotcha.
makes sense because that's not there aren't mines in Mario
Yeah.
or any of this-
Pokemon.
Yeah,
Yeah, not really.
Pokemon.
Yeah, like
That's
GoldenEye
what I
and like
can
Perfect
remember.
Dark. I mean, which are kind of
Right,
same thing
one
in
and
a
the
lot of ways,
same.
too. Yeah. But yeah, just some other items you guys remember using.
Oh my
or-
god! I mean, obviously the hammer. Getting that sweet hammer, and just like the music changes, and you start blinking like red and yellow. And it's just then the game just all of a sudden turns into a game of cat and mouse. And it's like the person who has the hammer, everyone else is just trying to get away from they're not even like fighting each other anymore for like, what is it, like 10 seconds, as long as the hammer lasts. And it's a one-hit kill, basically, no matter what your percentage is. I loved getting that.
And
that
like being a
hammer.
kid was the time to enjoy items before you were just poisoned by the idea that playing items of Smash Brothers is some sort of like lesser experience.
Right, yeah. Once the competitive scene brought that on, it made it less fun. But
It's the truest loss of innocence is being like, oh, I prefer without items now.
yeah. I still love those items.
What about the lightsaber? I mean, that's pretty.
Oh,
that's
Oh,
pretty
Lightsaber.
the beam saber, please.
Sorry, yeah. What franchise is that from? Because I'm not as up on Nintendo as you guys.
That's got to be
I
no
don't-
franchises.
Yeah, I think they did
Really?
some kind of more original stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. But just the idea that
no.
you can have it, you can.
The future Zelda game that never came out.
No.
They're just sitting on.
Space Zelda.
Space Zelda. No, that's a great one.
like Planet Hyrule.
Yeah, and the stages were like so good.
Yeah.
Like for the first iteration of a game to have like to really figure out like, I mean, a lot of these stages are just being recreated in the new games.
Right, because
like
it's so cool.
there's not too much to improve on there.
Because also it's one of the only fighting games where the stages really matter that much.
Yeah.
Because their layouts are so different. The stuff that happens on them is so different. Like, what is it? Is it Saffron City, the Pokemon one, where the Pokemon
Yeah.
just like bolt out of the side of the wall?
Pops out of a door and
Yeah,
like
and
messes
just
up
wreck
everything.
you.
Best mode to play is all Pokemon. You turn off all items except for Pokeballs. You play on Saffron City.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you want to do, the characters.
Play Pikachu and Jigglypuff for
I
some
mean-
real like goofy Pluto kind of business.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I mean, if you crank everything up, it's just an absolute nightmare. You're getting, we called them space bees, but it's what bee drill coming.
Bee drill,
through,
yeah,
it's, like,
yeah.
constantly.
Space bees.
We call them space bees. Because, when they get you when you're on the spaceship in space, it's like, where are these bees?
Sure.
Where are these bees coming from?
Yeah,
Just a flock of
the
space
Star
bees.
Fox stage.
Coming
Yeah.
from the Wicker Man, the source of all bees. I think the thing that most blew my mind though as a kid was all the Master Hand business.
Yeah, that was
Master
so
Hand is
weird.
so good.
Yeah.
If you don't, Master Hand, like the end of the arcade mode where you're just fighting a big hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it like brings this like strange story element into it where it's like, and it's seen in the opening sequence, but like
Right.
you're playing as toys.
Yeah,
that
you're
have been brought to
like
life.
Amiibo. That's how it ended up working out.
It's
like,
the original Toys to Life
Yeah.
video game.
You're revolting against the master.
but you're revolting
You're
against
fighting-
that
literally biting the hand that feeds
gloved
you.
hand.
I mean, it's like a JRPG where you have to just kill God.
right, essentially.
Yeah, and like it's his weird, his just booming voice.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it's kind of like it's metaphysical terror.
Very
This,
surreal.
omnipotent hand.
Yeah,
coming
and
to
like-
kill you, to squash you.
And like you really had to. The thing about like fighting game bosses that I've always liked is that they can be unbalanced. They
Yeah.
can be like unfair because so then it really has to force you to get better at the game.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely died many times with the hand.
Yeah. Just talking about being good at it. Smash Brothers is great. It's good. All this good fan service. All this. The celebration. But like, I think a big reason why it's held up is that it's also a very good fighting game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of controversial to say these days.
I know.
I know it's not. No, I'm not
There's
gonna
so
go
many
there.
fighting game purists that it's
Yeah.
like, Street Fighter, like basically Street Fighter
Yeah.
is kind of like the purest distillation of fighting games where it's like there's kind of no nonsense. But I think what makes Super Smash Brothers so great is all of the nonsense. And the way that instead of like whittling down someone's health, you're increasing their percentage with every hit which makes them fly farther every time you hit them.
Right.
It's like such an interesting concept.
And it goes over 100, like
Yeah.
routinely.
Right.
Like just as a
Like
matter of fact.
if you're at 100, you're not safe, but it's not like it's
Yeah.
not as guaranteed when someone will die as opposed to a fighting
Yeah.
game where it's like, oh, if they have exactly this amount of health left.
Yeah.
So it just adds this kind of
Amps up the tension. So
Yeah.
when you're both getting up there and you're both at like 250 or whatever.
Yeah.
That happens.
it's just so it's just,
Oh, that happens.
Yeah.
it's just cool, like just the different kinds of things you have to consider, like like just the knockback of a move and like just what a percentage of characters at, or like certain characters can live better at just their weight, like playing a real role.
Yeah, weight is huge in this game because, like, I mean, it's all about like, can you get back on the stage if you're knocked off? And if like you're playing Captain Falcon, like you're going for power more than you're going for like kind of flightiness.
Yeah. Just the like how effective your recovery move is. Like Mario's got this big punch, but it goes high, but it's kind of predictable. Whereas Pikachu has the quick attack, so you can kind of dart around, so you
Do
don't
a lot
know
of
how it's going to come back
damage.
on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people say that these kind of random elements say it's more like a party game than a fighting game, but I think that they can kick rocks.
I feel like it is a good fighting game, obviously, but I think it also is a great party game, and that's what makes it so successful, is that it fits well in both categories.
Sure.
Whereas like I'm not gonna hang out and play Street Fighter like with a bunch of friends, because like if someone hasn't played Street Fighter, like I suck at Street Fighter, and so like if someone knows Street Fighter a little bit, like no one's gonna beat them.
Right. I think part of that too comes down to the controls. What Street Fighter does, which I get is cool, but I think is maybe poisoned fighting games ever since, is having to do like quarter circle motions and fireball motions and all these weird like
Combos.
all
yeah.
those moves I feel like are just so like impossible for like a regular person to wrap their head around. Even me, like, I can do them, but like it just adds this. It's such an arbitrary level of like execution barrier that I feel like just doesn't need to be there. Like for what makes fighting games interesting to me is being able to read your opponent, to know when you should do a move, not am I even able to do this move?
Right.
And Smash Brothers controls, it's not hard to do any particular move. It's more about knowing when you should do a move.
Yeah.
It's deceptively simple. Like you can pick it up, you know that every character is going to have their down B move, their up A move, right, etc.
Right.
But there's an extra level to it where you have to read your opponent, and there's like a mind game to play to it. There are literally different levels. There's verticality within the maps, so you can play with that, and it's like the extra sauce on top of a fairly basic and easy to pick up, which makes it super accessible.
Yeah.
Gameplay.
Right, because someone could spam Pikachu, Thunder, Kirby, but like if they do it so much and they become predictable, then
that's
you
what
could
I
like
do.
punish them for it.
Yeah. It also sucks when you spam Pikachu's Thunder down B move, because it makes that sound effect every single time, and it is so annoying.
You just become conditioned to it. Yeah, and I think even just like the titular, the smash mechanic, I think also is plays into that. If you just smash the analog stick again, and something new for N64, smashing the analog stick does your most powerful move, your move that's going to hit him off. And I think that kind of makes the whole another fighting game thing is like, light attack, medium attack, heavy attack. When should I do one versus the other? What does that even mean? But I think having smash explains the concept of a heavy attack in a way that makes more sense. It's like, this is the attack that's going to hit them really far. So then, but it's kind of slower to charge. So that's when you should use it, when you're trying to finish them off.
Right. Yeah.
You talked about weight too. I mean, is it right to say that I feel like there feels like more weight in the 64 one than in like Melee? Like when I try to pick up and play Melee now, it feels very floaty and very slick. There's a lot of sliding around, and
It's very slick.
It's difficult to play. More difficult for me.
Well, if we want to get really in the weeds here, it's because
Now's the time.
Something that 64 has that other games, or 64 doesn't have that other games have, is in later Smash games, you can kind of control where you're going to go when you're hit. You can kind of influence. It's called directional influence. So just moving the stick will influence where when you'll get hit. That's a good way to kind of get out of attacks. But there's none of that in Smash 64.
Yeah.
So you're just going to be hit where the move is going to hit you, and it makes like true combos more viable.
Yeah,
Also
definitely.
leads to some more kind of game breaking stuff.
Right. Yeah. The weight of it definitely. Like this is, I feel like definitely the heaviest one. I think it's the hardest to hit people off the stage. With most characters in this game, and then like I feel like melee is really fast. Brawl is kind of like more air combat, kind of floaty. And same with Smash 4. But Smash 4 I think is a better iteration of Brawl.
Have you played Ultimate yet?
I have played a little Ultimate. That one, it feels a little bit more like Melee. It's definitely like got that speed and kind of the more close to ground feel to it, which I'm really excited to get back into.
Who'd you play as?
I played as Ridley.
Nice.
I think I was able to play like one match, so I was like, of course I'm gonna pick like a brand new character
Right.
and like very different character for the series. The antagonist of Samus in Metroid.
Oh yeah, who we're looking at right here versus Master Hand.
Yeah,
who we're
here
talking
it is.
about.
God.
Look at he's just
I love the hands moves of just like poking, flicking, and like the finger guns. I just feel like that's
he does some
so
of this,
brilliant.
some of this business.
Yeah, walking along the stage.
Yeah. So Smash Brothers, great fighting game. I think it's fun to play, even when there are games that, even like other fighting games that like play like Smash Brothers. I like playing, like Brawl Out and
Yeah, Brawl Out's fun.
So I think the mechanics are fun in and of themselves. But this is a game, if you're not into Nintendo, like this is a game you should play because you're into Nintendo.
Yeah.
And that's because it is such a great celebration of the company and just their body of work.
Oh, totally.
Let's just talk a little bit more about why Smash Brothers is such a good celebration of Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, like, so Mario Kart brought some characters together in like a fun way, but Super Smash Brothers brought characters together that they're supposedly in different universes.
Right. It's that whole Avengers thing, I feel like.
It's like, I mean, like, Metroid is completely separate from Star Fox, which is completely separate from the Mario universe, and, like, also Ness.
Right. Like, I feel like Smash Brothers, like, even, like raises the profile of some Nintendo characters that otherwise you wouldn't have heard. Like, Captain Falcon, like, as not in a car.
Yeah.
Like, they brought out Fire Emblem in America because Martha and Roy were in Melee, and people were like, who are these characters? Like, what are they from?
Yeah, I'm completely behind you guys on Nintendo stuff. Like, this is not, I did not have an N64 for most of my childhood.
So what's your perspective then on all the Nintendo stuff in this game?
It is, I mean, the music is great.
Oh, I love it.
The maps are like unique and amazing. But I don't have a ton of context for it, or I never did.
So is it just like a lot of non sequiturs?
I feel like it's completely random and crazy, but I feel like that's part of the game anyway. I just feel like maybe there's like a catharsis or like a little joy, that little spark of joy that you guys can get from seeing these characters that you've like already played and experienced in other games and you love, and you come into it with like this built-in affection for them, and like to see them smash together, to clash together. Whereas for me, it's just like it was just an amazing game to play,
Right.
Or to get whooped at constantly over and over again.
So that speaks to the strength of the core mechanics then. But yeah, we were just talking about just the music in these games, stuff like the trophies. Like again, it's almost like it's like history. It's like a piece of games preservation almost.
Yeah, it really and it's when you look at those trophies and stuff, it's also got like fun facts about like other Nintendo games and like things like from Nintendo's history.
Right. Now I think that the trophies weren't until Melee, I believe.
Okay.
But just in the franchise in general.
Yeah. But man, I mean, just bringing all these different characters together, I feel like it was so interesting. It was also like you said, like an introduction to quite a few characters. I didn't know about Captain Falcon. I didn't know
no
about
one played
Ness.
Earthbound. No one knows about Ness.
No one knows. Not in America.
Yeah.
But did you guys have some favorite characters?
In 64, I was just kind of trying to play everyone.
Yeah.
But I guess it probably would have been Donkey Kong. I'm just a real DK kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's an ape wearing a tie with his own initials on it. That's just outstanding
Great.
to me.
Just great.
He's just great. His stage is really good. It's got the barrels underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably DK, I guess.
DK's a great choice.
I defaulted to Kirby a lot. Just because of what you mentioned already, like his flighty nature and the fact that if you get knocked way off the stage, you can basically propel yourself back. Like you kind of have this
You got that floaty
invincibility to you.
Yeah.
Also, just I mean that incredibly dumb simplicity of the down B, like turning it into a rock and smash.
Right.
A rock or like an anvil or like whatever it is.
So you were able to approach it. You picked just because of the moves. Just you were just being sheerly practical. Like this is the character.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas me, I like Donkey Kong. I just wanted to play as him.
I would turn Kirby to the yellow version. I think there's like a yellow alternate with red shoes that reminded me of Pac-Man. And so I would
Oh,
pretend
wow.
Pac-Man was in the
also
game.
beats people. So a little headcanon going on there.
Yeah, just had to wait 15 years before they put Pac-Man in there for real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What
I
do you
have the
count?
idea.
I think I really liked Link. I was always a sword boy. You know, I was just a fan of that kind of genre of stuff. And I think probably like because what Lord of the Rings, the movie came out in like 2000, right?
Something like 2001.
99 or yeah, somewhere in that range. So like I think I was like all in on that, and I loved having a sword, but also Samus. I just love like I never had played a Metroid game, but I like loved playing as
This
Samus.
was the closest thing we had to a Metroid 64.
Yeah,
Like,
really.
Yeah.
But just I mean, all of Samus's moves like focusing on more, I feel like distance than up close combat was a lot of fun.
Who else I like? I like just like characters with just moves that were like just really tricky to pull off. Like Luigi's up B. If you like space it right, it's like a really powerful kind of Shoryuken thing.
Yeah.
And Jigglypuff's rest. If you like get them like right when you're touching them,
Unbelievable.
it's like
I never played Jigglypuff.
No, I couldn't get it down.
I was not.
I also never played Ness because like there was like the up B where he like releases the spark and like you can
it's really technical.
direct it. Yeah, it's tough and like I just didn't have the dexterity for it. I think. Do you guys have any good stages you loved?
Saffron City. Also just the Zelda, the temple stage.
Yeah, Hyrule Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the tornado like randomly like
Yeah.
floating through.
And I wrote it down. What did I have? Also the oh my god! I mean, I did love the spaceship as well. What is it? It's code
Sector Z.
Sector
Oh,
Z.
Star Fox. Yeah.
Okay,
Star Fox,
gotcha.
yeah, I
Star Fox,
loved that one. That was definitely
There's that little divot over on the side that if you're gonna get stuck like in a corner, it's very easy to just
it's like a
get
little
burnt.
micro stage
Yeah.
almost.
I think it's wild we've gone this
Riotous.
whole show without talking about Falcon Punch yet.
Oh, Falcon Punch, like
Yeah.
one of the most iconic, I feel like, moves in any fighting game.
Yeah.
It's a meme.
It's I mean they put it in when they
It's
did the
a
F-Zero
huge
anime.
meme.
They put that was like the last. That was like the end of the show. Where
Oh,
he
really?
Falcon punched the bad guy and like destroyed. I think he died. And then someone else became Captain Falcon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, so the punch was so powerful that it killed himself?
Yeah, and the villain. So he like jumps out of the car. Falcon punches this guy, and then like kind of fades into like heaven. and then the new guy becomes Captain Falcon.
His swan song.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Falcon Punch, if he can land that, because it's such a long charge, but then, I mean, it's basically a one-hit knockout, pretty much.
Yeah.
And he's like,
High risk, high reward.
Yeah. And that voice line, just great.
Yeah.
Samus has that charge too, also that if you can hit.
Oh, yeah,
Which
the
for
big
me-
beam charge.
Yeah. If you can manage that, then it feels really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. The thing about these games, there's just a lot to them. They're always just chock full of content.
Yeah.
Just more. Even this first one, there's just a ton of stuff in it. More stuff than we're ever gonna have time to talk fully about. But
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot about Super Smash Bros. 64. Just start of really important Nintendo series that is going to reach, I think, new heights this December.
Yeah.
When Smash Ultimate comes out.
And like even Super Smash Bros. 64 still holds up so well.
So you're saying that it's a game that you should play before you die?
Yeah, I think I'm saying that.
Okay.
It's a game to play before you die.
Okay, I guess you've convinced me. All right, so that's it for this episode. Yeah, we're on agreement that Super Smash Bros. For N64 is a game that you should play before you die.
100%.
But there are other games, I guess, that you should play too. Or I guess we're going to talk about them.
Be very coy about it.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll be back next time with another game that you should play before you die. Kellen, Bob, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.